My daughter sent me an email saying, "Stay home and watch the wedding on Zoom." Instead, I walked into the ceremony carrying a folder of hidden truths and brought 5 people who knew the story. The moment I uncovered her secrets, the groom turned around and left. But let me back up. Let me tell you how I got to that church on a Saturday morning in April, holding a manila folder that would destroy everything my daughter had built on lies. I'm John Parker, 53 years old, worked 2 jobs for 30 years. Day shift at the steel mill, night shift driving delivery trucks. My wife died when the kids were young, so it was just me raising 2 children on nothing but grit and overtime pay. I never complained. That's what fathers do. You sacrifice, you bleed, you keep your mouth shut and your head down. My daughter Sarah is 28. My son Michael is 32. I gave them everything I never had: college educations, nice apartments, connections. I cashed out my 401k for Sarah's law school, took out a second mortgage for Michael's business degree, wore the same 3 shirts for 5 years so they could wear designer clothes at their internships. They never said thank you, not really, but I told myself that didn't matter. Success was the thank you. Watching them climb higher than I ever could, that was enough. I was wrong. The email came on a Tuesday. Subject line, wedding update. I opened it expecting an invitation, maybe a request to walk her down the aisle. Instead, I got 3 sentences that felt like a punch to the throat. "Dad, we've decided to keep the wedding small and intimate. It's better if you watch from home on Zoom. The link will be sent the morning of. Love, Sarah." I read it 5 times. Then I called her. "Sarah, honey, what's this about Zoom?" "Dad, hi." Her voice had that tight, professional tone she used with clients. "Yeah, so Jason's family is really traditional, and we want to keep the guest list manageable." "Manageable? Your father isn't manageable." "That's not what I'm saying. Look, we're limiting it to immediate family and close friends." "I am immediate family." Silence. Then, "Jason's family is covering most of the costs, and they have expectations about the guest list." "Did you tell them I've been saving for this since you were 16? Another silence. This one longer. "Dad, please don't make this harder than it is. We'll do a nice dinner afterward, just the 3 of us." That's when I knew something was wrong. Not just hurt feelings wrong. Something deeper. Something rotten. "Is Michael going?" I asked. "Yes." "So, immediate family means everyone but me." "Dad, I'll let you go. I'm sure you're busy." I hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking, not from anger, not yet, from something else. A feeling I couldn't name then but understand now. I sat in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd made their lunches every morning for 18 years, and I started thinking, really thinking, about the last few years, about the distance that had grown between us, about the conversations that stopped happening. Sarah used to call me every Sunday. Then it became every other Sunday. Then once a month. Then only when she needed something. Last Christmas, she sent a gift card. Michael didn't even do that. He sent a text. "Merry Christmas, Dad. Crazy busy. Talk soon." We didn't talk soon. We didn't talk at all. I pulled out my laptop and did what any father would do. I started looking for answers. It took me 3 days to find the first crack in the wall. 3 days of searching through old emails, bank statements, and public records. I'm not a detective, but 30 years of blue-collar work teaches you one thing: follow the money. The wedding was costing $200,000. I know this because Sarah had accidentally CC'd me on an email to the wedding planner 6 months ago. She'd sent a follow-up asking me to please disregard the previous message. I'd assumed it was just embarrassment about the cost. Now I wondered what else was in that email. I found it in my trash folder. The original message laid out the full budget: venue, catering, flowers, band, photographer, everything top shelf, everything expensive. And at the bottom, In a PDF attachment I hadn't opened before was the payment structure. Deposit, $50,000, paid in full. Payment method, wire transfer from Parker Family Trust. I don't have a family trust. I called my bank the next morning. I need to check on any accounts in my name. The woman on the phone was pleasant and unhelpful. Sir, I can only discuss accounts that you've personally opened. That's what I'm asking about. Are there any accounts I've opened that I might have forgotten? Let me check. Can you verify your social security number? I gave it to her. Heard typing. Mr. Parker, I'm showing your checking account, your savings account, and a trust account opened in 2019. My chest tightened. What trust account? The Parker Family Trust. It was opened on March 15, 2019. Would you like me to send you the statements? Yes, all of them. The statements arrived by email 20 minutes later. I printed them out and spread them across my kitchen table. 43 pages of transactions I'd never authorized. The trust had been opened with $75,000, my entire retirement savings, transferred from my 401k. Over the next 4 years, money had been moved in and out, payments to luxury retailers, payments to real estate companies, payments to car dealerships, and at the top of every statement, 2 names listed as trustees, Sarah Parker and Michael Parker. My children had stolen my retirement. I should have called the police right then, should have hired a lawyer, should have done something immediate and loud, but I didn't. I sat at that table for 6 hours, reading every transaction, tracing every dollar, and I felt something change inside me. They'd planned this. This wasn't impulse or desperation. This was calculated. They'd forged my signature, created false documents, and systematically drained everything I'd worked for. And they'd done it while still calling me Dad, still showing up for obligatory holiday visits, still pretending to love me. That's what hurt most. Not the money, the pretending. I started making phone calls. First to the bank where the trust was opened, a branch 30 miles away, not my usual bank. I told them I needed copies of all documents related to the account opening. Sir, that will require a formal request. I'm the primary account holder. Actually, according to our records, you're listed as the beneficiary. Sarah and Michael Parker are the account holders. Based on what documents? A power of attorney signed by you in 2019. I never signed a power of attorney. The documents arrived by courier 3 days later. I paid $40 for the rush delivery. Inside the envelope were copies of a trust agreement, a power of attorney form, and a notarized statement. The signature wasn't even close to mine. They hadn't tried hard. They'd just scribbled something that looked vaguely like John Parker and gambled that no one would check. They'd gambled right. I made a copy of everything and put the originals in a safe deposit box I opened that afternoon at a different bank. Then I kept digging. The real estate transaction was next. In 2020, my house, the house I'd owned for 28 years, the house where I'd raised my children, had been refinanced. A second mortgage for $150,000. I called the mortgage company. Mr. Parker, yes, that loan is current. Would you like to make a payment? I'd like to know why I have a second mortgage I didn't apply for. Pause. Sir, you signed the application in 2020. We have your signature on file. Send me a copy. That will take 7 to 10 business days. Send it overnight. I'll pay. The signature was better this time, closer to mine. They'd practiced, or maybe they'd traced it from something real. Either way, it was fraud. The money from that refinance had gone into the trust account. From there, it had been distributed in chunks. $50,000 to Michael, $30,000 to Sarah. The rest disappeared into cash withdrawals and transfers to accounts I couldn't trace. My children had stolen my house out from under me. I spent the next week documenting everything. I created spreadsheets tracking every dollar. I made timelines showing when each fraudulent transaction occurred. I collected copies of my real signature from old documents and compared them to the forgeries. The evidence was overwhelming, undeniable, perfect. But I still didn't call the police. Not yet. Because I realized something important. If I went to the police now, the legal system would handle it. Lawyers, judges, plea bargains, maybe some restitution, maybe some probation, maybe nothing at all. That wasn't enough. I didn't want the system to punish them. I wanted them to understand what they'd done. I wanted them to feel the shame and humiliation they'd earned. I wanted everyone they knew to see them for what they really were. I wanted justice, real justice, the kind that leaves scars. So I kept digging, and I started planning. The more I looked, the worse it got. The trust account was just the beginning. There were credit cards opened in my name, store accounts, online loan applications. They'd used my identity like a blank check, running up debt and making purchases they had no intention of paying for. I found a car loan for $60,000, Michael's BMW, financed in my name. He'd been making the minimum payments. Another 15 years, and I'd have paid $90,000 for a car I'd never driven. I found a lease agreement for Sarah's apartment, downtown high-rise, $3,000 a month, co-signed by me, except I'd never co-signed anything. The signature was sloppy. They'd gotten lazy by then, overconfident. I found medical bills from a plastic surgery clinic, $35,000 for procedures I'd never heard of. Sarah's nose, Michael's hair transplant, both charged to credit cards in my name. Every discovery made me angrier, but it also made me calmer, more focused, because I was starting to see the full picture. This wasn't just theft, this was a systematic campaign to drain me dry. They'd looked at my finances and decided they were entitled to all of it, every penny, every asset, every bit of credit I'd built over 30 years of honest work, and they'd assumed I'd never find out, or if I did, I'd be too scared or too stupid to fight back. They were wrong. I started calling the creditors, not to dispute the charges, not yet, just to gather information. I needed to know exactly how much they'd taken, where it had gone, and how they'd managed to pull it off. The credit card companies were the most helpful. They sent me copies of the applications, all digital, all submitted online. Someone had created email addresses in my name and used them to open accounts. The IP addresses traced back to Sarah's law firm and Michael's office. They'd committed fraud from their workplaces, during business hours, using company computers. They'd been that brazen. I documented everything, screen captures, email headers, IP addresses, transaction histories. I built a case that would hold up in any court in the country, but I still wasn't ready to file charges, because I'd realized something else. They weren't just stealing from me. They were stealing from everyone. Michael's business was a Ponzi scheme. He was taking money from new investors to pay returns to old investors, skimming off the top for himself. The whole thing was held together with lies and promises. Sarah's law practice wasn't much better. She was billing clients for work she wasn't doing, padding hours, charging for research that never happened. The Bar Association would be very interested in her timesheets. My children weren't just thieves. They were con artists, fraudsters, criminals who happened to have law degrees and business cards. And I was going to expose all of it. I waited until Sunday. Sarah always had brunch with her friends on Sundays at a place downtown. I knew this because she used to invite me once a month, back when I was still part of her life. I showed up at 11:30, carrying a leather folder with copies of everything I'd found. The restaurant was one of those trendy spots with exposed brick and drinks that cost $18. Sarah was at a table by the window with 3 women I didn't recognize. She saw me before I reached the table. Her face went pale. "Dad, what are you doing here? We need to talk. I'm with friends. This isn't a good time." I pulled out a chair and sat down. "Then they can hear this too." Her friends exchanged uncomfortable glances. Sarah's jaw tightened. Dad, please, not here. I opened the folder and placed the bank statements on the table. The Parker Family Trust, opened in my name, using my retirement savings without my permission. That's called fraud. She didn't pick up the papers, didn't even look at them. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. You and Michael opened this account in 2019. You forged my signature on a power of attorney. You've been draining it for 4 years. One of her friends stood up. I think we should give you two some privacy. Stay, Sarah said. Then, to me, you're embarrassing yourself. Show me the power of attorney. Show me where I signed it. She finally looked at the papers. Her expression didn't change. You don't remember signing it because you were drinking heavily that year. You signed a lot of things you don't remember. The accusation hit like a slap. I've never been a drinker. A beer on Friday nights, maybe. Nothing more. That's a lie, I said. Is it? Dad, you were a mess after Mom died. We were trying to help you manage your finances. By stealing them, by protecting them, by making sure you didn't lose everything. I pulled out the mortgage documents. And the second mortgage on my house? Were you protecting that too? This time she faltered. Just for a second. That was necessary. For what? For investments. For securing our future. Your future. Where's the money, Sarah? It's been invested. In what? Your wedding, Michael's car collection. Show me the investments. She stood up. I don't have to explain myself to you. You don't understand how financial planning works. You never did. That's why we had to take control. You stole from me. We saved you from yourself. That's when I knew there would be no apology, no remorse. She actually believed her own story. She'd rewritten history in her mind, turned theft into charity, and convinced herself she was the hero. I gathered the papers and stood up. The wedding is in 2 weeks. I'm not watching on Zoom. I'm going to be there. And I'm bringing these documents with me. Dad, don't. I'm going to stand up during the ceremony and show everyone who you really are. Unless you want to tell me the truth right now. Her face hardened. Get out. See you at the wedding, honey. I walked out of that restaurant feeling something I hadn't felt in 30 years. Power. For the first time since my wife died, I wasn't reacting to life, I was controlling it, but I knew Sarah would call Michael, knew they'd start planning their defense, knew I'd have to move faster than I'd intended. So I went straight to my truck and started making calls. First call, Jason's parents. I'd found their number through the wedding website. Mrs. Patterson, this is John Parker, Sarah's father. We need to talk about your son's wedding. Second call, Sarah's law firm. I asked to speak to the managing partner. I have information about billing fraud. I'd like to arrange a meeting. Third call, Michael's biggest investor. A man named Harold Chen, who'd put $2 million into Michael's consulting firm. Mr. Chen, you don't know me, but I have information about Michael Parker's business practices that you need to see. I spent the rest of Sunday setting up meetings. Monday through Wednesday were fully booked. By Thursday, I'd have spoken to everyone who mattered, everyone who needed to know the truth. And by the time the wedding rolled around, Sarah and Michael would have nowhere to hide. Monday morning, I met with Harold Chen at a coffee shop near his office. He was in his 60s, sharply dressed, with the careful manner of someone who'd made a lot of money and didn't want to lose it. Mr. Parker, thank you for meeting me. You said this was about Michael. I opened my folder. Your investment in his consulting firm. How much due diligence did you do? Extensive. Background checks, financial audits, references. Everything came back clean. Did you verify his credentials? His MBA from Columbia? Yes, it's legitimate. What about his work history? Chen frowned. He worked at 3 major firms before starting his own company. We verified all of it. I pulled out a document I'd found during my research. This is Michael's resume from 2015. It lists 2 years at Goldman Sachs. Did you verify that specifically? Our investigator confirmed it. Call them, ask them to check again. Because I called Goldman Sachs myself. Michael never worked there. He interned there for 6 weeks and got fired for falsifying expense reports. Chen's face changed. That's a serious accusation. It's a provable fact. Here's the contact information for HR. Call them yourself. He pulled out his phone, made the call right there at the table. I watched his expression shift from skeptical to angry to furious. Thank you, he said quietly when he hung up. What else should I know? I spent the next hour walking him through everything. The forged documents, the stolen money, the pattern of fraud that went back years. By the end, Chen was taking notes. I'm calling an emergency board meeting, he said. We're freezing all of Michael's access to company funds, and I'm contacting my lawyer about criminal charges. That's your right. I just thought you should know what you're dealing with. Why are you doing this? Michael is your son. Michael is a thief who happens to be my son. There's a difference. That afternoon, I met with Sarah's managing partner. His name was Richard Foster, and he'd built one of the most respected law firms in the state over 40 years. Mr. Parker, your message said this was urgent. I handed him a USB drive. This contains Sarah's timesheets for the last 2 years, along with the actual court filings and work product she claims to have produced during those hours. You'll notice significant discrepancies. Foster plugged the drive into his laptop, started scrolling. His face grew darker with each page. Where did you get this? Some of it's public record. Some of it I obtained through discovery requests as a potential client. Some of it was in Sarah's own files. She's been storing work documents in the cloud using my account without my knowledge. This shows systematic fraud. Yes, it does. She's been billing clients for work she never did, charging research hours while she was shopping online, claiming court appearances on days she was on vacation. Foster closed the laptop. Why bring this to me? Why not just report her to the Bar Association? Because I thought you deserved to know first, and because I thought you might want to conduct your own investigation before this becomes public. It will become public. On Saturday, at her wedding, I'm going to show everyone who she really is. Foster leaned back in his chair. Mr. Parker, I appreciate this information, but what you're describing, public humiliation at a wedding, that's not justice, that's revenge. Call it what you want. She stole from me. She lied to everyone around her. She excluded me from her life because she was ashamed of where she came from. Someone needs to hold her accountable. The legal system will give her a slap on the wrist because she's young and educated and knows how to work the system. I'm going to give her something that actually matters. Consequences. I left his office knowing I'd planted seeds. Foster would investigate. He'd find everything I'd found and more. And by the time Sarah realized what was happening, it would be too late. Tuesday morning, I met with Jason's parents at their house. His mother answered the door with a warm smile that faded when she saw my expression. Mr. Parker, please come in. We sat in their living room, expensive furniture, art on the walls, the kind of wealth my children had always wanted and finally thought they'd achieved. Thank you for meeting with me. I know this is awkward. Jason mentioned you've had some conflict with Sarah, his father said carefully. Conflict, that's one word for it. I opened my folder. I'm here because your son deserves to know the truth before he marries my daughter. I walked them through everything. The forged documents, the stolen money, the systematic fraud. They listened in silence, their faces growing pale. How much? His mother finally asked. $300,000, give or take, plus whatever she's been skimming from her law firm. And the wedding? $50,000 of it was paid with money stolen from me. Jason's father stood up, walked to the window. Does Jason know? I don't know. I haven't spoken to him. He needs to know, before the wedding. That's why I'm here. I'm going to stand up during the ceremony and present this evidence. But I thought you might want to handle it differently, more privately. His mother shook her head. Private won't work. Sarah will deny everything. She'll manipulate Jason. She'll convince him you're lying. So what do you suggest? Do what you planned. Stand up at the wedding. Show everyone. Let the truth speak for itself. That surprised me. You want me to humiliate your son? I want him to see who he's marrying before he signs a legal contract with her. If that's humiliating, so be it. Better humiliated than destroyed. Wednesday, I spent preparing my presentation. I bought a small projector, created a PowerPoint with images of every forged signature, every fraudulent transaction, every lie my children had told. It was 60 slides of undeniable truth. I practiced the presentation in my living room, timed it, edited it, made sure every word hit hard and every fact was unshakable. By Thursday, I was ready. The wedding was 2 days away. Sarah and Michael still had no idea what was coming. I got a phone call that night. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Mr. Parker, this is Detective James Wilson from the Fraud Division. I understand you've been conducting your own investigation into financial crimes committed by your children. My stomach dropped. Someone had warned them. Who told you? Richard Foster, Sarah's boss. He filed a formal complaint with our office this afternoon after conducting his own investigation. We'd like you to come in and make a statement. When? Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. I showed up at the police station at 8:45. Detective Wilson was younger than I expected, maybe 40. Sharp eyes, professional manner. Mr. Parker, thank you for coming in. I've reviewed the materials Mr. Foster provided, and I have to say, this is one of the most comprehensive fraud cases I've seen from a civilian investigator. Thank you. But I need to ask you something. Why didn't you come to us first? Because I wanted to handle it myself. Handle it how? I told him about the wedding, about my plan to expose Sarah publicly, about the presentation I'd prepared. Wilson listened without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. Mr. Parker, I understand your anger, but what you're planning is a bad idea. Why? Because it could compromise the criminal case. Defense attorneys will argue you were trying to intimidate their clients. They'll claim the evidence is tainted. They'll make you look like a vindictive father instead of a victim. So what should I do? Let us handle it. File a formal complaint, press charges, let the system work. The system will let them plea bargain down to nothing. Maybe, maybe not. But if you go through with your plan, you might let them walk completely. I sat there for a long moment, thinking. He was right. I knew he was right. But I'd come so far, planned so carefully. The idea of backing down now felt like surrender. If I press charges, what happens? We arrest them, probably this weekend. We charge them with fraud, forgery, identity theft. The DA decides whether to prosecute. If they're smart, they plead guilty and agree to restitution. If they're not, it goes to trial. How long does that take? Months, maybe years. And in the meantime, they're free on bail, living their lives, getting married, starting families. While you wait for justice, that decided it. I'm going to the wedding. Mr. Parker, I'm pressing charges. I'll file a formal complaint. I'll testify in court. I'll do everything you need me to do. But first, I'm going to that wedding. And I'm going to tell the truth. You can arrest them afterward if you want. But I'm doing this my way first. Wilson studied me for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay. But when this blows up in your face, don't say I didn't warn you. Fair enough. I left the police station and drove home. Spent Friday making final preparations. Charged the projector. Printed backup copies of everything. Practiced my speech one more time. Friday night I barely slept. Kept running through scenarios in my head. What Sarah would say. How Michael would react. Whether Jason would believe me. But underneath the nervousness was something else. Something solid and unshakable. I was doing the right thing. No matter what happened, no matter what it cost. Truth mattered, justice mattered, and someone had to stand up and demand both. That someone was me. Saturday morning came with clear skies and perfect weather. I put on my only suit, the same one I'd worn to my wife's funeral, and drove to the venue with my folder and my projector. I arrived at 9:30 for an 11 o'clock ceremony. The parking lot was already filling up, expensive cars everywhere, BMWs and Mercedes and Teslas, the kind of crowd my daughter had always wanted to be part of. I sat in my truck and waited, watched the guests arrive, men in tailored suits, women in designer dresses, everyone laughing and smiling, excited for the celebration ahead. None of them knew what was coming. At 10:45, I saw Sarah arrive in a white limousine. She stepped out in her wedding dress, strapless, flowing, probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. Her bridesmaids surrounded her, fussing with her veil and train. She looked happy, beautiful, like someone without a care in the world. That was about to change. I got out of my truck and walked toward the entrance. The coordinator saw me immediately. "Sir, may I see your invitation?" "I'm the father of the bride." She checked her tablet. "I'm sorry, but I don't see your name on the guest list." "That's a mistake. I'm afraid I'll need to verify with the bride before I can let you in." "Go ahead, verify." She walked away quickly, speaking into her radio. I stood there in the entrance, folder under my arm, waiting. 2 minutes later, she returned with security guards, 2 large men in black suits. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. This is a public venue. I have as much right to be here as anyone. This is a private event. If you don't leave voluntarily, we'll escort you out." "Try it." That's when I saw Jason. He'd come outside to smoke, was standing near the side entrance. He saw the commotion and walked over. "What's going on?" "Mr. Patterson, this man claims to be the father of the bride, but he's not on the guest list." "Let him in," Jason said. "But sir..." "I said let him in. He's staying." The guard stepped back. The coordinator looked confused but nodded. Jason turned to me. "My parents told me everything. I hired a private investigator. He confirmed it all." "I'm sorry you had to find out this way." "I'm not. Better now than after I signed the marriage license." He took a drag from his cigarette. "Come on. My parents are saving you a seat." We walked inside together. The venue was stunning. Flowers everywhere, crystal chandeliers, white chairs arranged in perfect rows, a string quartet playing softly. 200 guests were scattered throughout the space, chatting and laughing. I saw Michael near the front, talking to some of his investors. He saw me and froze. Jason led me to the front row where his parents were sitting. His mother hugged me. His father shook my hand. "Glad you made it," he said quietly. The ceremony was supposed to start at 11. By 11:15, nothing had happened. People were getting restless, checking their phones, whispering to each other. I saw Sarah through a side door arguing with someone. Her face was red. Her hands were gesturing wildly. The wedding planner kept trying to calm her down. At 11:30, the music changed. The wedding march began. Everyone stood. Sarah appeared at the back of the room, alone. No father to walk her down the aisle. She'd arranged it that way because she'd been too ashamed to let anyone see me beside her. Now she walked alone, her face rigid, her eyes locked on Jason. She reached the front. The officiant began speaking. Standard wedding ceremony words about love and commitment and forever. Then he got to the part I was waiting for. "If anyone has objections to this union, speak now or forever hold your peace." I stood up. Every head in the room turned toward me. Sarah's face went white. Michael started moving toward me, but Jason's father blocked him. "I have objections," I said. The officiant looked confused. "Sir, that's just a formality." Sarah Parker has been committing fraud for 4 years. She and her brother stole over $300,000 from me through forged documents and identity theft. I have proof. and everyone here deserves to see it before this wedding goes any further." The room erupted, voices overlapping, guests standing, Sarah screaming at me to sit down. Jason just stood there, watching it all unfold. I walked to the front where I'd stashed my projector earlier, set it up, connected it to the venue's screen system that had been displaying photos of Sarah and Jason. Now it displayed the truth. First slide, my real signature versus the forgeries. Side by side, undeniably different. Second slide, the trust account statement showing the $75,000 transfer. Third slide, the transaction history. Payment after payment, withdrawal after withdrawal. Sarah's name on everyone. Fourth slide, the mortgage documents, the forged signature again, the $150,000 loan I never applied for. Fifth slide, the wedding expenses, $50,000 of stolen money. I talked through each one, clear, calm, professional. Every word backed up by documents on the screen. The room went silent. People were taking photos of the screen with their phones. Michael tried to leave through a side door, but found it blocked by Harold Chen and 2 other investors. Sarah just stood there in her wedding dress, tears running down her face, mascara smearing, looking like someone watching their whole world collapse. "This woman," I said, pointing at my daughter, "stole from her father. She forged documents. She lied to everyone. She excluded me from this wedding because she was ashamed that I'm a factory worker. And she paid for this ceremony with money she stole from me." I turned to Jason. "You deserve better than this. You deserve someone honest, someone with integrity, someone who doesn't see their own family as a resource to exploit." Jason looked at Sarah. "Is it true?" She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. "I can explain. Is it true? It's more complicated than he's making it sound. Did you steal from your father?" Silence. "Did you forge his signature?" More silence. "Did you pay for our wedding with stolen money?" She started crying harder. "I did it for us, for our future. He was never going to use that money anyway." Jason pulled off his boutonniere and dropped it on the ground. "The wedding is cancelled." He walked out the side door. His parents followed. One by one, the guests started leaving, whispering, staring, taking more photos. Michael tried to follow them, but Harold Chen grabbed his arm. "We're going to have a conversation about your business practices, right now." Sarah stood alone in the middle of the empty room, surrounded by flowers bought with stolen money, wearing a dress paid for with fraud, her life collapsing around her. She turned to me. "Are you happy now?" "No, but I'm satisfied." "You destroyed everything. You destroyed everything. I just showed people what you'd done. I'll never forgive you. I don't need your forgiveness. I need my money back, and I'm pressing charges. The police are waiting for my call." I pulled out my phone, dialed Detective Wilson. "It's John Parker. You can make the arrests now." 2 police cars arrived within 10 minutes. They arrested Sarah first, right there in her wedding dress, read her rights while she screamed about how this was all my fault, how I'd ruined her life, how I was a terrible father. They arrested Michael in the parking lot. He didn't scream. "You win, Dad. Congratulations." They didn't win. Neither did I. We all lost. But at least now, the truth was out there. The lies were exposed. The fraud was being punished. Justice wasn't pretty. It wasn't satisfying. But it was necessary. The next 48 hours were a blur of police statements, lawyer consultations, and phone calls from people I hadn't spoken to in years. Everyone wanted to know what happened. Everyone wanted my side of the story. I told them the truth. Every time. No embellishment, no drama, just the facts. Sarah and Michael were arraigned on Monday. Both pleaded not guilty. Both posted bail, money provided by friends who still believed their lies. I watched them leave the courthouse separately, not speaking to each other, not looking at me. The preliminary hearing was set for 6 weeks out. Detective Wilson called to walk me through what would happen next. The DA is taking this seriously. Multiple counts of fraud, forgery, identity theft. They're looking at real prison time if convicted. How much time? 5 to 10 years, maybe more depending on how the judge feels about family betrayal. I don't want them in prison. Wilson paused. What do you want? I want my money back. I want them to admit what they did. I want consequences that actually teach them something. Prison just makes them victims. That's not how this works. Once charges are filed, the state decides. I know, but I can make a recommendation at sentencing, right? Yes, but Mr. Parker, these are serious crimes, and they deserve serious consequences, but productive ones, not just punishment for punishment's sake. I hung up and called my own lawyer, a public defender I'd hired for $200 an hour, all I could afford on my factory salary. Can I sue for restitution separately from the criminal case? Yes, civil court. You'd have a strong case given the evidence. How long would that take? Year, maybe 2. They'd fight it, drag it out, cost you thousands in legal fees. What if they agree to settle? That's different. If they admit fault and agree to a payment plan, we could have it resolved in months. Set it up, make the offer, full restitution plus interest, 20-year payment plan. In exchange, I recommend probation instead of prison time. You're being very generous to people who stole from you. I'm being strategic. Prison costs me nothing and gets me nothing. Restitution gets me my money back and teaches them a lesson that actually matters. The offer went out Tuesday afternoon. By Wednesday, both Sarah and Michael had accepted. They didn't have a choice. The evidence was too strong. Going to trial would mean certain conviction and maximum sentences. The plea deal was finalized 3 weeks later. Both pleaded guilty to fraud and forgery. Both agreed to full restitution of $325,000, the original theft plus interest and legal fees. Both received 5 years probation with strict conditions. Sarah lost her law license, disbarred immediately, banned from practicing law in any state. Her career, everything she'd worked for, gone. Michael's business collapsed. Investors pulled out. Partners fled. He filed for bankruptcy within a month. Everything he'd built, or stolen, evaporated. The payments started coming in June. Small amounts at first. $300 from Sarah, $200 from Michael. Barely enough to cover the interest, let alone the principal. But it was something. Every month they had to write those checks. Every month they had to remember what they'd done. Every month they paid for their betrayal. I deposited the checks without comment. Never called them, never reached out, just watched the balance slowly climb back toward what they'd stolen. People asked me how I felt, if I was happy, if I'd gotten closure. I told them the truth. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no regret, no anger, just empty. They'd stolen my money, but I'd lost my children, and no amount of restitution would change that. Summer passed, then fall. The payments kept coming, small amounts that would take decades to add up to anything meaningful. But they came, regular as clockwork. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Sarah was working as a paralegal, making $40,000 a year, living in a studio apartment, taking the bus because she couldn't afford a car. Michael was selling insurance, cold calling strangers, making commission only, living with a roommate to split rent. They'd both fallen far, and fast. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt tired. My phone rang one evening in October, unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Mr. Parker, this is Jason Patterson. I'd forgotten about him. Jason, how are you? I'm okay, better. I wanted to thank you for what you did. You're thanking me for ruining your wedding. You saved me from making the biggest mistake of my life. After everything fell apart, I did some more digging. Found out Sarah had been cheating on me for 6 months. Found out she'd been planning to have me sign a post-nuptial agreement that would have protected her stolen assets if we divorced. She was using me. I'm sorry. Don't be. You're the only one who told me the truth. My parents want to have you over for dinner sometime, to thank you properly. Maybe. The offer stands. Whenever you're ready. I never took him up on it. Some connections are better left unmade, but it was good to know someone understood. October turned to November. November to December. The holidays approached, and I dreaded them. First Christmas without any contact with my children. First Thanksgiving alone. First New Year with no one to call. I spent Thanksgiving at a diner. Turkey plate and coffee, surrounded by strangers. It wasn't sad, just quiet. Christmas was harder. I walked through the mall and saw families shopping together, parents with their adult children, laughing and joking. Everything I'd wanted and would never have. I went home and pulled out old photos. Sarah as a baby, Michael learning to ride a bike, their mother holding them both, smiling at the camera. When had it all gone wrong? When had they stopped being my children and started being strangers who saw me as a resource to exploit? I couldn't pinpoint a moment. It had been gradual, a slow drift over years, distance growing until it became a canyon neither of us could cross. Or maybe it had always been there. Maybe I'd just been too blind to see it. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Dad, it's Sarah. I know I don't have the right to contact you. I know you probably hate me. But it's Christmas and I wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. I hope you're well. I hope you're happy. I hope someday you can forgive me. I stared at that text for 20 minutes, thought about responding, thought about saying something, anything, to bridge the gap. Instead, I deleted it, blocked the number, and went to bed. Forgiveness wasn't something I could give. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Winter dragged on, cold and grey and endless. I worked my shifts at the factory, came home to an empty house, watched TV shows I didn't care about, went to bed alone. The payments kept coming, every month, like clockwork, proof that they were still out there, still paying for what they'd done. In March, I got a letter, real paper, real envelope, handwritten address. I almost threw it away without opening it, but curiosity won. Dad, I'm writing this because my therapist says I need to take accountability. Not for you, you don't owe me anything, but for myself. So I can live with what I did. You were right about everything. We stole from you. We lied to you. We treated you like garbage because it made us feel better about ourselves. We were ashamed of where we came from, and instead of dealing with that shame, we tried to erase you from our lives. That was wrong. Unforgivably wrong. I've lost everything. My career, my relationship, my reputation, my future, and I deserve it. Every bit of it. I'm not asking for pity or forgiveness. I'm just trying to understand how I became someone capable of doing what I did. That we blamed you for not being able to save her. For not being rich enough to afford better doctors. For not being strong enough to keep us all together. That resentment festered for years until it turned into contempt. But that's not fair. You did everything you could. You worked yourself to exhaustion for us. You sacrificed everything. And we repaid you by stealing the only security you had. I can't take it back. I can't undo it. I can only keep paying you back and hope that someday, somehow, I become a person who would never do something like that again. Michael is struggling too. His marriage fell apart. He's drinking. He won't talk to me. We're both paying for what we did, separately and alone. You taught us that actions have consequences. We're learning that lesson now. Too late, but we're learning. I don't expect you to respond to this. I don't expect anything from you. I just wanted you to know that I understand what I did. I understand who I became, and I'm trying to be better. I love you, Dad. I always have. Even when I was stealing from you. Even when I was lying to your face. I loved you. I just didn't respect you. And that's the worst part of all. Sarah. I read it 3 times. Then I put it in my desk drawer with all the other documents from that time. The bank statements, the forged signatures, the evidence of their betrayal. I didn't respond. What would I say? That I forgive her? I didn't. That I understand? I didn't. That I want her back in my life? I didn't. The letter was for her, not me. She needed to write it to feel better about herself. That was fine. But I didn't need to participate in her healing process. I had my own healing to do, and it didn't involve them. Spring came slowly. The snow melted. The trees budded. Life returned to the world around me. But inside, I still felt frozen. The payments continued. April, May, June. Small amounts adding up over time. At this rate, I'd have all my money back in 18 years. I'd be 71. They'd be in their late 40s. We'd all be different people by then. Detective Wilson called in July. Thought you'd want to know. Both of them completed their first year of probation without any violations. They're doing what they're supposed to do. Good. You don't sound happy about it. I'm not unhappy. I just don't care anymore. That's probably healthy. Maybe it was. Maybe indifference was better than anger. Better than the constant rage that had driven me for months. Better than the need for revenge that had consumed me. I was tired of caring. Tired of thinking about them. Tired of the whole situation. I wanted to move on, but I didn't know how. In August, I made a decision. I put my house on the market. The house where I'd raised my children. The house they'd tried to steal. The house that held 30 years of memories, good and bad. It sold in 3 weeks. Cash offer, $10,000 over asking price. I took it immediately. I bought a cabin in the mountains. Small place, 2 bedrooms, wood stove, no neighbors for miles. The kind of place where you can forget the world exists. I moved in September, packed up 30 years in 2 weeks, threw away most of it, kept the essentials, left the rest. The new owner could deal with it, or burn it. I didn't care. The cabin was perfect, quiet, isolated, peaceful. I spent my days fishing and reading, my nights sitting on the porch, watching the stars, thinking about nothing. The payments followed me to my new address. Every month, regular as ever. Proof that Sarah and Michael were still out there. Still paying, still remembering. But I was forgetting. Slowly, deliberately. Letting go of the anger and hurt and betrayal. Replacing it with nothing. Just empty space where there used to be. That was healing. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, just absence. Just peace. I retired in November, 55 years old, 30 years at the factory. They threw me a party, gave me a plaque, shook my hand and wished me well. I went home to my cabin and never looked back. Winter came to the mountains. Heavy snow, impassable roads, perfect isolation. I spent December alone, reading books and watching the snow fall, feeling more at peace than I had in years. Christmas Eve, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. Dad, Michael's voice. I hadn't heard it in 18 months. What do you want? I just wanted to call, to say Merry Christmas, to tell you I'm sober now, 3 months clean, and I'm sorry for everything. I should have hung up, should have told him to never call again, should have maintained the boundaries I'd worked so hard to establish. Instead, I said, Good. I'm glad you're sober. Sarah's doing better too. She's teaching at a community college, business ethics, ironically. She's engaged to a teacher. Good guy, honest. She told him everything before he proposed. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know we're trying, that we learned the lesson, that we're not the people we were. It doesn't change anything. I know, but I needed to tell you anyway. Silence. Long and heavy. Dad, I don't expect you to forgive us. I don't expect you to ever talk to us again. But I want you to know that destroying us at that wedding was the best thing you ever did for us. It forced us to face who we'd become. It made us accountable. It saved us. I didn't do it to save you. I did it for justice. I know, but it worked anyway. We're better people now because you refused to let us get away with it. More silence. Michael, I'm glad you're sober. I'm glad you're doing better, but I can't have you in my life. Too much has happened. Too much damage. I hope you understand. I do, but Dad, thank you for everything you did for us growing up, and for everything you did at that wedding. Both mattered. He hung up before I could respond. I sat on my porch for hours that night, wrapped in a blanket, watching the stars, thinking about forgiveness and justice, and whether they could ever coexist. I didn't have an answer. Maybe there wasn't one. Years passed, 3 of them. The payments kept coming every month. Bigger now. Sarah's teaching job paid better than the paralegal work. Michael's insurance business had grown. They were both doing well. I was 58, living quietly in my cabin, fishing in the summer, reading in the winter, existing in a peaceful isolation I'd never known before. I rarely thought about them anymore. When I did, it was without anger. Just a distant memory of people I used to know. The restitution was 2/3 complete. Another 6 years and I'd have everything back. With interest, with legal fees, with compensation for 3 years of stress and heartbreak. I'd won, completely, totally, undeniably. So why didn't it feel like victory? One morning in April, I woke to find an envelope on my porch. No stamp, no address. Someone had driven up here and left it personally. Inside was a check for $80,000, the remaining balance of what they owed me, plus an extra $10,000 and a note. Dad, we've been saving for 3 years to pay this off early. We wanted you to have it now, not in 6 more years. We wanted you to be free of us, to not have that monthly reminder of what we did. The extra $10,000 is for your trouble, for your pain, for everything we can never repay. We love you. We always will, even if we never see you again. Sarah and Michael. I stared at that check for a long time. $80,000, more money than I'd ever held at once. The end of a 4-year nightmare. Freedom from the monthly reminders. Closure. I should have felt relieved, vindicated, satisfied. Instead, I felt sad, deeply, profoundly sad. Because the payments ending meant the last connection was severed. The last thread holding us together, even in conflict, was gone. They were truly out of my life now, forever. And I'd wanted that. I'd demanded it. I'd fought for it. But now that I had it, it felt like loss instead of victory. I deposited the check, paid off my cabin, put the rest in savings, and went back to my quiet life. But something had changed. The anger that had driven me for so long was gone. The need for justice was satisfied. The desire for revenge was spent. What remained was just empty space and questions. Had I done the right thing? Had destroying them at their wedding really been necessary? Had there been another way, a quieter way, a kinder way, to hold them accountable? I didn't know. I'd never know. All I knew was that I'd chosen justice over mercy, truth over family, consequences over forgiveness, and I'd have to live with that choice for the rest of my life. Epilogue. The reckoning. I'm 63 now. 10 years since that wedding. 10 years since I stood up in front of 200 people and destroyed my children's lives. I still live in my cabin. Still fish and read and exist in peaceful isolation. Still rarely think about them. But sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd made different choices, if I'd handled it privately, if I'd given them a chance to make things right before I humiliated them publicly. Would they have changed? Would they have paid me back? Would we have a relationship now? I'll never know. What I do know is this. They stole from me. They lied to me. They betrayed me in the deepest way possible. And someone had to hold them accountable. That someone was me. Was it revenge? Partly. Was it justice? Mostly. Was it necessary? I believed so then. I believe so now. But it cost me everything. My children, my family. Any chance at grandchildren or holiday visits or growing old surrounded by people who love me. I'm alone. By choice, yes. But alone nonetheless. Was it worth it? I don't know. Some days I think yes. Some days I think no. Most days I try not to think about it at all. What I do know is that I taught them a lesson they'll never forget. That actions have consequences. That betrayal comes with a price. That you can't steal from the people who love you and expect to walk away unscathed. They learned that lesson. Painfully. Publicly. Permanently. And so did everyone who was at that wedding. Everyone who saw the presentation. Everyone who heard the story. They all learned that there are still people in this world who will stand up and demand justice no matter the cost. Maybe that matters. Maybe that's enough. Or maybe I'm just an old man in a cabin, trying to justify the choices I made when I was angry and hurt and broken. I'll never know for sure. But I sleep well at night. I have peace. I have quiet. I have a life that's entirely my own. And I have no regrets. Not really. Not when I'm honest with myself. I did what I had to do. I demanded accountability. I refused to be a victim. And if that makes me the villain in their story, so be it. I'd rather be a villain with dignity than a victim without it. My name is John Parker. I'm a father who destroyed his children to save himself. I'm a man who chose truth over family. I'm someone who demanded justice and paid the price for it. And I'd do it all again. Every single part. Because some things are worth fighting for. Dignity, truth, justice, self-respect. Those things matter more than forgiveness, more than reconciliation, more than family. At least they do to me. And that's all that matters now. 5 years after depositing that final check, on a Tuesday morning in late September, I heard a car coming up the mountain road. Unusual. The mailman came Wednesdays. I wasn't expecting deliveries, and tourists didn't make it this far up. I watched from my porch as a sedan navigated the rough terrain. It parked near my cabin and a young man got out. Early 20s, tall, dark hair. He looked nervous. "Mr. Parker?" "Who's asking?" "My name is David. David Patterson. Jason Patterson's younger brother. Can we talk?" I set down my coffee. "About what?" "About what happened at the wedding. About Sarah. About everything. That was 10 years ago. Ancient history. Not for me. Can I come up?" I considered sending him away, but curiosity won. 5 minutes. He climbed the porch steps and sat in the chair I pointed to. Up close, he looked like Jason. Same eyes, same careful manner. Jason told me the whole story, what Sarah did, what you did, how you exposed her in front of everyone. And I wanted to meet you, the man who had the guts to do what most people only dream about. It wasn't about guts, it was about justice. My brother never recovered. Not really. He dates, but he doesn't trust anyone. He runs background checks on every woman he meets. He's paranoid about money, about being used, about being lied to. What happened at that wedding broke something in him. I'm sorry to hear that, but it's not my fault. Sarah broke him. I just revealed the truth. David leaned forward. See, that's what I've been thinking about. The truth. You were right to expose her, but did it have to be so public, so devastating? Couldn't you have told Jason privately, given him a chance to walk away quietly? I tried. I met with your parents. They agreed the public exposure was necessary. Because they were angry too. They wanted revenge just like you did. But Jason didn't. He was just a victim caught in the crossfire. The accusation stung because it was partly true. Jason had been collateral damage, an innocent bystander in my war against my children. Why are you really here, David? Because I'm getting married next month, And my fiancé has been lying to me about her debts. Small lies. Nothing like what Sarah did, but lies nonetheless. And I don't know what to do. Do I expose her publicly like you did? Do I handle it privately? Do I walk away? I came here hoping you could tell me what the right answer is. I looked at this young man, barely more than a kid, asking me for wisdom I didn't have. What do you want to do? I want to forgive her. I want to work through it. But Jason says that's weak, that liars always lie, that I need to protect myself before I end up like him. What does your heart tell you? That people make mistakes, that love means giving second chances, that not every betrayal deserves nuclear war. I sat back in my chair, thought about Sarah and Michael, about the wedding, about the 10 years of silence that followed. You're right, I said quietly. What? You're right. Not every betrayal deserves what I did. I was angry, hurt. I wanted them to suffer like I'd suffered, so I chose the most destructive path possible. And it worked. They suffered. But so did Jason. So did everyone at that wedding. So did I. David stared at me. You regret it? I don't know. Some days yes, some days no. What I do know is that there were other options, quieter options, kinder options. I didn't choose them because I wanted revenge more than I wanted resolution. So what should I do? Talk to her. Tell her you know about the lies. Give her a chance to explain, to make it right, to show you who she really is. If she doubles down on the lies, walk away. But if she owns it, if she shows remorse, if she commits to change, maybe that's worth fighting for. That's not what you did. No, it's not. And maybe that's my lesson to learn. That justice without mercy is just cruelty with better PR. David nodded slowly. Thank you for being honest. One more thing. Don't let your brother's trauma become your reality. His experience isn't yours. His fear isn't yours. You get to make your own choices, your own mistakes, your own peace. After he left, I sat on that porch for hours, thinking about mercy, about second chances, about all the roads not taken. 3 weeks after David's visit, my phone rang at midnight. I almost didn't answer, but something told me I should. Dad? Sarah's voice, shaking, crying. What's wrong? It's Michael. He's in the hospital. Heart attack. He's asking for you. My first instinct was to hang up, to maintain the boundaries I'd spent 10 years building, but something stopped me. Which hospital? St. Mary's, in the city. Dad, please. He might not make it. I drove through the night, 4 hours down the mountain, through small towns and empty highways, thinking about Michael as a child, teaching him to ride a bike, helping him with homework, being his father before everything went wrong. The hospital was quiet when I arrived at dawn. Sarah was in the waiting room. She looked older, tired, grey streaks in her hair, lines around her eyes. Dad. She stood up, started to hug me, stopped herself. Thank you for coming. How is he? Stable. They did surgery. He'll live, but it was close. Can I see him? She led me to his room. Michael was pale, hooked up to machines, breathing shallow. He opened his eyes when I walked in. Dad, you came. Sarah called. I'm sorry, for everything. I know it doesn't matter now. I know it's too late. But I needed to say it one more time. I pulled a chair next to his bed. You said it in your letter, in your phone call. You've been saying it for 10 years. And you never responded, never forgave me, never gave me a chance to make it right beyond the money. The money was what you took, but you took other things too. Trust, respect, family. Those don't have payment plans. I know, and I've lived with that, every day, every month, every year, knowing I destroyed the only family I had because I was greedy and stupid and ashamed. His heart monitor beeped steadily. Sarah stood in the doorway listening. Michael, you almost died tonight. And in that moment, facing the end, what did you want? What mattered most? You. Having you here. knowing you didn't completely hate me. I don't hate you. I haven't hated you in years. Hate takes energy I don't have anymore. But you don't love me either. No, I don't, because I don't know you anymore. You're a stranger who sends me checks every month, a name on an envelope, a memory of someone I used to love. Tears ran down his face. Can we change that? Can we try? I don't have much time left. The doctors say my heart is damaged. I looked at this man, my son technically, though he hadn't felt like my son in a decade, and I felt something crack inside me. Forgiveness isn't something I can just give you because you're sick. It's not a deathbed gift. It's something you earn over time through changed behavior and rebuilt trust. I don't have time. And that's the consequence of your choices. That's what betrayal costs. Sarah made a sound in the doorway. Half sob, half gasp. Dad, please. He's your son. Your only son. The doctor said he's stable. But someday he will. We all will. And when that day comes, do you want your last words to him to be about consequences and costs? I stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the city waking up below. What do you want from me? What would forgiveness even look like after 10 years? Anything, Michael said. A phone call once a month, a visit once a year. Just knowing you don't hate me, that's all. And if I can't give you that, if I don't want you in my life in any capacity, then I'll respect it. I'll stop hoping. I'll let you go. But I had to ask. One last time. I turned back to face him, this broken man in a hospital bed who used to be my son. I'll think about it. That's all I can promise. I'll think about whether forgiveness is possible, whether rebuilding is worth the effort, whether I even want you back in my life. That's more than I expected. Thank you. I left the hospital without saying goodbye to Sarah. Drove back up the mountain in silence, thinking about mercy and justice and whether they could coexist.